All right, hello. So here we are. The student will access these interactive learning modules right there in their Canvas site, right there in modules. They are prompted to start with the page that says start here, welcome, and module objectives. So this first page just welcomes the student, just provides them information on what these modules are, what they'll be doing, and why. We include the learning outcomes of these modules to understand and differentiate language learning technologies, develop best practices and digital literacy, as well as reflect on ethical use and personal application. There's a welcome video about the modules. And then the students are provided with a pretty specific step-by-step list of what they'll be doing, the types of activities in these learning modules, and then a few logistical items. And then on every page, the learner will be prompted to click next to go to the next activity here at the bottom right-hand side of the page. Of course, we have our acknowledgements as well. So the learner goes to the next. The first page is just a quick definition of 3 different tools: online dictionaries, machine translators, and generative AI, just to provide context and a simple definition. We click next in the bottom right-hand side to go to the first activity. The first activity is an exploration and comparison between different translators, online dictionaries, or machine translators. The learner is prompted to come up with a word, think of any word, and then run it through these different translators and online dictionaries to compare the output and see what is different or what might be the same, and just compare differences in output. So in this collaborative Google Sheet, in the left-hand column, these are the target words. In column B, and then the output that each different tool gave the learner, and then the learner is prompted to create a sentence with their target word. So they're just exploring, seeing what's going on and whatnot. They go to the next page, which is more specifically about generative AI. The learners are asked to watch the 3 videos and then share one new idea or insight they gained. The first video is a custom-made video, particularly for this project, made with my collaborator about what is AI, particularly with the perspective of world languages. The second video is more concise regarding the kind of mechanics behind generative AI. It's made by Amazon Web Services. And then a really interesting TED Talk video about rethinking language education in the age of AI. There's additional resources the learner can explore, as well as some campus-specific tools. So they click next at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, and they're prompted to think about pros and cons. What pros and cons are there to generative AI in general, in education, and in second language education? So the learner thinks about this and then submits their ideas. They click next to do a comparison and reflection. So in each of these boxes, we have compiled a list of pros and cons for those same 3 categories: general use of AI, AI in education, AI for second language learning. This list is a compilation of our own research, as well as submissions of users over time, different iterations of the students who have been submitting this activity in these modules. So we have pros and cons in education, pros and cons in second language learning. If the learner wants to explore different topics that are not exactly what the module's objectives are, they can click on this resource repository, where this is a work in progress, but we're continuing to build out and provide more resources on accessibility, for example, language learning pedagogy, plagiarism, teaching resources, and so on. So they would click into accessibility and inclusive design. There's of course a tab on concerns and responsible use. So this is just here in case the learner wants to explore more expansive topics. So the next page is really important. How and why do I choose each tool? So within these different accordion expandable sections, if you open them, online dictionaries, there is a brief how-to video, just a few examples, really specific examples of how to leverage one of the most popular online dictionaries, word reference. Similar with machine translators, there's a quick video on using a machine translation tool for language learning. And then similarly with generative AI, the example we use here is with ChatGPT, using a few examples for language learners just to show them how these tools can be used. We also have created a level-specific prompt bank, so the learners can click on this. They see the level of Spanish that they're in according to the university. So Spanish 1A is very, very beginners. Then we move into beginning mid, novice low, novice mid, novice high, and then we move into the intermediate levels. These numbers correspond to the levels of our university. But if the learner is, for example, in 1B, which is their second class or second quarter, they have prompts specifically designed for different target lessons in the class according to the curriculum and the textbook. So the learners can practice these on their own time if they want to. They click next to move on. And the next page is really quite cool too. This is also a compilation of learners submitting their ideas over time. So 10 tips for technology and language learning. This infographic is student-generated advice on using technology for learning in general and specifically language learning. The word cloud is the same just for visual aesthetics. This list here is the same as the infographic, but for accessibility purposes, the text is extracted out of the image. So we click next, or the learner would click next, and they would also get a chance to contribute what advice they would give for using technology for language learning. The next 2 pages are Let's Play activities. So the learner is prompted to log into an AI chatbot, and they can practice with 3 different prompts. We provided them a beginner level prompt, an intermediate prompt, and an advanced language learner prompt. They are prompted to log into an AI tool that they might feel more comfortable with, and just practice and kind of see what happens. And then similarly, the next page is also a Let's Play page with the twist. These particular prompts are specifically designed to trip up the AI tool to have it produce to have it produce lies or incorrect information. So you would expand the prompt there. Just aiming to show the learners that AI can be a helpful tool, but also it's not always the best. The next page is about online dictionaries, machine translations, AI, and plagiarism. So things to consider when they're using these tools, when these tools are considered plagiarism and when they're not considered plagiarism, and also what is plagiarism. So this first section is when is the use of these tools not considered. So we provide specific examples, discipline-specific examples. We have a little quick check for them to like a little scenario kind of, and then they open it up and say, answer, no, you built this in yourself. This is not plagiarism. Really trying to show the learners why or why not different actions with different tools might be considered plagiarism. The next section is yes, when these tools are considered plagiarism. So you can see the little quick check here. We give them a scenario and we say, is it acceptable use or no? So that is about plagiarism. The next page is about citing sources. So we provide information about citation formats. We chose APA and MLA, but of course these same principles apply to any format. And we, again, provide specific examples about how you would cite sources. And then further down, citing online dictionaries, machine translators, and then if they are considering interaction with AI and how they might cite that as well. Again, we provide very clear and specific examples to language learning, and then citing AI interactions. In some, making sure to highlight that AI is not an author, it is not a primary source, always needing to fact check. Clicking or tapping the next button at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, we move specifically into specifics about the course's policy on technology, which includes AI. So the text at the top reads, below you will find do's and don'ts and guidelines for use. By completing this module and participating in this class, you agree to abide by these policies in your Spanish course. So we have sort of a TLDR of the tech policy. Students can use these technologies under specific conditions. Make sure that you are following these guidelines. And we link the students to academic integrity, student conduct, and what it would look like if a plagiarism report is filed. Of course, these sections for online dictionaries, machine translators, and artificial intelligence are expandable. So we have examples of appropriate use, inappropriate use, pros and cons, and guidelines for online dictionaries. Same structure for machine translators, and then same structure with examples for generative artificial intelligence. And then we have key guidelines for the learner, and then inappropriate use consequences. And that's just for me, I need to update this document. And then the learner clicks or taps next to move on. And now we say, now that you have this information, it's time for you to decide. Based on what you now know, you can make your choice. What do you think? Do you want to use it or not? Either way is fine. They move on to the next page and they take a quick completion questionnaire where they rate the helpfulness, usefulness of these modules. They explain their ranking from above, provide an approximation of how long it took them to complete the modules. And we really want to get their feedback and insight on the specific technology policy for the course. So we ask them if there was anything they would add or remove, or just their feedback on the policy specifically, how they might improve this module. And then, of course, by assigning their name, they acknowledge they've read the policy and will abide by them. And then they can submit the quiz. And then we, of course, move to the next page and we have our references. So this whole experience is really designed to set the learner up for success, be a continuous conversation about academic integrity, about discipline-specific technology use for these classes that they're in. So we do have a syllabus statement, of course, about using technology tools such as generative AI, but we don't need that or want the conversation to stop there. So we have our policy, and we're going to help learners be able to fulfill that policy, be able to set the expectations and help the learners do these expectations by providing some hands-on guidance. So overall, we can kind of think about these modules as an interactive course policy on technology through hands-on exploration and education. Thank you.